Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is our bigger show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week to your local comic book store, or if you shop with us at infinityflux.net, they will be on their way to you via new air travel.
What?
Zeppelin
Yeah.
or a blimp
Stork.
or something. Yeah. So we've got some great books this week. But before we get into it, we wanted to talk about Free Comic Book Day a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. We wanted to first thank everybody who came out to visit us on Free Comic Book Day. It was a crazy day, but crazy in all the best ways possible. We were giving out comics from the time the doors opened at 9 to the time the doors close at 8. It was such a great day. Just a lot of kids in there getting books. Very happy about that. Yeah, it was wonderful. And we wanted to let you know too that on our website infinityflux.net, if you didn't get to make it out either to our store or any store for Free Comic Book Day, we actually have a bundle of 46 of the Free Comic Book Day books. The only ones we don't have are Ninja Turtles and the Night Library. We did run out of those. But every single other book you can buy in one big bundle for $39.99. We have a couple of the Free Comic Book Day exclusives, like the Spider-Man 2099 tin lunchbox, the Deadpool blanket. There is an Invincible Funko Pop.
Yep.
And I feel like there was one more that I'm missing. But yeah, so we still have a lot of free Comic Book Day goodies available on our website if you didn't make it out to your store.
Yep, and my Free Comic Book Day book.
Oh my gosh.
That
should have been the first one I mentioned.
Adventures, I signed more of these than I can count. I did little remarks of them, like this one right here with nubs on it, and those are still available, probably at least for another week.
Yeah.
So if you still want to grab one, head over there, and they are available now.
I feel horrible forgetting. I was thinking of the exclusive, but yeah, definitely get Andy's book. It's awesome. First appearance of Young Jedi Adventures characters in comics, and it's super fantastic. You can get it either signed or remarked. Yeah, so much cool stuff. Yeah, super great day.
I forgot, and it made me sneeze.
Super duper great day, and I want to do it again like next weekend.
We should do it. I was about to say, let's do it around this time next year.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, we are going to get into the books because there are some big ones this week. We have a bunch of Blood Hunt tie-ins. That first big wave of those is starting this week, and we're going to start with one of them. We're going to start with Doctor Strange number 15, which sounds like kind of a weird book to start a big comic preview show with, but the reason I want to start with this one is because this feels like it could be Blood Hunt Part 1.5.
I would say we're talking about a lot of Blood Hunt this week. I feel like if you're getting all of them, this should be the first one you read after, because there's even stuff in some other books we're talking about that won't make as much sense if you don't read this first.
Yeah, definitely. So read Blood Hunt number 1 first, for sure. Then read this one, and then go read all the other ones. If you were surprised at the shocking ending of Blood Hunt number 1 and want to know immediately what happens next, well, this book is what happens next. This shows you exactly what happens next. Obviously, it involves Doctor Strange and the person who is behind all of the craziness going on. I don't want to spoil it for you, just in case you don't know. But I will tell you that Clea fights the person that is responsible for all this stuff. And she says that she and Doctor Strange plan to put together the Montesi formula, which is a spell in the Darkhold. And keep the Darkhold in mind, because we're going to talk about that again later. And it's a spell that can kill all vampires. And but the person she is fighting may have given her a compelling reason why she won't want to do that. It's wildly interesting. It's full of action. It is a great follow-up to Blood Hunt number 1. So yeah, definitely don't miss this one, because it's I feel like, I don't want to throw around the term important or necessary, but I do feel like if you want to get the biggest books outside of the main series, this is probably the one to get.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll get recapped at maybe Blood Hunt number 2, but if you can swing it, I would definitely recommend picking this up because it feels pretty important to this.
Yeah, and if you read Blood Hunt number 1, you know what happens at the end. This literally takes place like a page before that. Like, you see that scene play out.
It's like the last 2 or 3 pages of Blood Hunt number 1 are the first 2 or 3 pages in this.
That's how
close they are. Yeah. So anyway, we have our A cover right here. We have this Lee Garbett variant. And there was also a black suit variant, which was really cool. And I believe we've already doled those out to all of our pullbox customers because we didn't have any extra to show you here. So we either have this one or that one.
Well, before we get into more Blood Hunt, because we got a lot, want to spread the love around, and I'm going to start off with DC's The Boy Wonder #1. I'm not sure. I can't remember if this is like a 3 or 4 issue miniseries.
I want to say it's 3.
3 sounds about right. So this is by Junie Ba. They do the art and the writing on it, and this is really cool. So this is, I would say, like, it's continuity, kind of adjacent. We'll say
It's a Black Label book.
It's a Black Label book, so
you know.
It does take a lot of stuff from kind of Damian Wayne's history and weaves into this, but in a very interesting way. So the art style on this, I want to begin with, is kind of looks like this cover here. It's a little bit more, easier to read narrative wise, stylized, but it gives me very much a like Samurai Jack or something like that, like kind of flat but very really cool ways of using shapes and very like squared off things. In this, Damien, I guess we assume it's Damien because he has a bag over his head, but has been taken captive by just a regular criminal. Like, this is just a guy with a ski mask on who's already seems a little nervous. Damien, of course, does not seem nervous at all. He's just kind of buying his time and kind of goofing off and like making jokes at the guy.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, while I'm here, I'm going to tell you like a fairy tale, Damien says to the guy. And he refers to the characters as the king, who is Batman, and the princes, which are the Robins. Now, when we see this, at first I thought we'd be like, oh, we're going to see like a fantasy world. We don't. We see regular Batman and everything. This is just so he doesn't kind of give up what the story is to the criminal.
Yeah.
But he basically recounts his own origin about being raised by a League of Assassins and all of that. And then his father came to take him away, and he became, a new Robin. But on his first outing, he ended up killing somebody, and that was against what Batman wanted. So we get a really cool, like, background on Damien. But this is mostly about what's Damien's relationship actually with the other Robins. So he kind of gets into this thing of, but there were all these other princes, and that one was ruthless and one was cunning and all of this. And it shows them going on missions, but like Alfred keeping Damien back and Bruce keeping Damien back because he's younger and didn't want him to do all that. And it's kind of how Damien a little bit resented the other Robins, but we see through the course of this how he maybe can learn from them and what his role as Robin is, because they all had their own role as Robin, what his is. And this one focuses on Nightwing, and we see the history of Nightwing, which is really cool. Kind of all the scenes played out, even up to the point where he quit being Robin, threw his mask off, became Nightwing, and what lessons he learned from Dick instead of, as he's recounting the story, he kind of realizes, oh, this is what I learned from him and everything. It's a really cool, it's a very cool structured. I think the next one we're going to be getting into is Red Hood will be the next issue, and then Tim. But it's really cool. And it does weave kind of its own version of Gotham and the Bat family, because there's Barbara Gordon as Batgirl is in this as well. And maybe her and Dick Grayson's relationship is a little bit different than what it is in the main universe, which I really liked. I thought it was really cool. So really cool, stylized, new take on kind of the Batman mythos, especially the Robins and what it means to be a Robin. So I highly recommend it. I thought it was really, really cool. I love the art style in it. And just kind of a new take on, it's new but familiar take on Damien and all the Robins. So we've got our A cover right here by Junie Ba. We also have this really nice Cliff Chiang cover, which you see that's kind of the main cast for this issue. And we also have a 1 in 25 Ba variant that we're selling for $18.99.
All right, well, I'm going to talk about Ain't No Grave #1. This is a new series from Image, written by Scotty Young. The art is by Jorge Corona. That is your Middle West team. That is your the Me You Love in the Dark team. And it's fantastic. You know, it reads great. It looks great. This is a $5.99 book, but it is 40 pages with no ads. And it's actually kind of light on the dialogue.
Mhm.
It's very art heavy with great art, great colors. But you don't even really feel like there's light dialogue because it just looks so
It's
good.
world building without dialogue.
Yeah, yeah. So it's about a woman named Ryder. She used to be this infamous bandit. Met her husband and fell in love and had a child with him, and then she put the wildlife behind her basically. However, one day she came down with a, it's the typical thing of, oh, one cough means you're gonna die, but she starts coughing up blood.
Kind of maybe tuberculosis
Yeah,
or
something
something
like
like that.
that. And the doctor tells her that she doesn't have much longer to live. And she gets it in her mind that she does not want to permanently leave her family. So she saddles up, she gets her 6 shooters, and she heads out on a quest basically to find this mystical town called Cyprus. And when she gets there, or she has the intention of when she gets there, she is going to kill Death himself so that she never has to die and thus leave her family. Um, that's a very quick synopsis for an oversized book, but it's like I said, it's very there's a lot of great art. We do get the story across, like you do understand what's going on. This issue also kind of mixes her journey on the road to Cyprus with some flashbacks, so that we can learn a little bit more about her. But it's fantastic. I mean, if you've read the Scotty Young, Jorge Corona books, the books they collaborate on, this is the same kind of thing, but set in the Old West. Maybe some supernatural elements
That's what I was
thrown
gonna
in.
say. It's definitely like very like Old West, and the supernatural bits are not over the top. They're very
Right,
like even almost a little like surreal. There's a moment where there's a particular spot and she's on her horse and the horse won't go past a certain
right,
point
yeah,
and you realize there's something here. There's
yeah,
some kind of weird something here. And I thought all that was really cool. It's very
hmm
like more supernatural uh in the real world type thing
yeah,
rather than there's ghosts flying
right,
everywhere.
yeah.
Some of it you're like, is she imagining some of this? I don't know. It's really
I kind of
cool.
thought that too, maybe. But yeah, it's super great. I feel like obviously it's a first issue, so it's a lot setting up her situation and her journey to Cyprus, and then next issue I think is where it's really going to kick in, and she's going to start trying to accomplish her goal, not just getting to the place where that she needs to go to. But fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Scotty Young, he's a great artist. He's such a great writer. Jorge Corona combined with that, like I said, great colors. It's wonderful. It's an absolutely wonderful book. I highly recommend it. And this is the only cover there is, just the one cover.
Yeah, that's definitely maybe my pick of the week for favorite. I just one we don't get a whole lot of Western
Mm-hmm.
comics, and reading this one, it was just like all the best parts of
Yeah.
that. The environment, the kind of desolateness, the kind of outlaw angle where she kind of has to pick up that old life and
Mm-hmm.
go back in it, but she still really cares for her family.
Yeah.
Just a really cool idea and what a book should do after the first issue. I'm like, I really want to read
Oh
the
yeah.
next one.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it's enough in the first issue that you feel satisfied, but it's only going to get better
Yep.
as it goes. So
Yep.
great
Yeah.
first issue. Okay, so next up for me is another Blood Hunt book. This is Dracula. Is it called Dracula Blood Hunt?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just Dracula Blood Hunt. Yeah.
Yes, number one. This is really cool. So this is by Danny Lore and Vincenzo doing the art. David Curiel does the colors, which I love. He's done a lot of really great stuff, but it feels almost like I don't know, the kind of colors they put like on a big event book, like a really main title with the action and the colors and everything. So this is really cool because it goes between these two characters, Dracula and Brielle, who we know is Blade's daughter. And it's been a little while since we've seen her. She had her mini series, but this is kind of the most I've read of her in anything. So it begins with Dracula kind of suiting up, and it does the same thing it did in the Blood Hunt, where it's like hours till sun death,
He's just like, I think it starts like 3 minutes before.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, but we get that timer.
Yeah.
And from what I could gather, because you're kind of dropped in the middle of what Dracula's doing, he's kind of gotten reports from other places that something's about to happen. And he knows, like, I've got a job I've got to do. Even before all this happens, there's kind of whispers in the vampire community
Hmm.
of something. So he gets all armored up. Meanwhile, Brielle is at school. She's kind of got this double life. Her friends know that she's a vampire hunter, but everything's going well until the skies get dark. And that she can even feel her powers get stronger. Usually they don't come out until night, but she can already feel like, oh wow, this is like supercharged me
Yeah,
type thing.
she's like, oh, something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
She can tell something's up.
And of course, that's when all the vampires break out and start attacking. There's most of this issue is action in a really cool way, but Dracula seems like he needs Brielle for something, which he's, her father's greatest enemy pretty much. But how are they going to work together in this? Is she even going to accept his offer? You'll have to read it to find out. But a lot of great action, a lot of really cool vampire kills,
Yeah.
just like different ways they figure out to do it. I mean, she even does one where she kind of hides behind a wall and just puts a stake out to the side and the vampire runs into it. A lot of really cool stuff like that. And this made me want to read a lot more Dracula stuff.
Me too.
Just how he, like, presents himself in this is really cool, and just the idea of Dracula in Atlanta is a really fun idea as well. But I really like this. I thought it was action packed, a great addition to the Blood Hunt event, and with a character like Dracula and Brielle, these are two very big characters for this story, as you know how each of them relate to the story if you've been reading Blood Hunt. So I think this is going to be a pretty big one in the long term of.
I think so.
I think it's going to weave into the main story quite a bit. But another one I definitely recommend for anybody who's looking for more Blood Hunt. I really liked it. So we've got our A cover right there. We also have this Manahini variant. And we also have the Blood Red sketch variant.
Well, I'm going to talk about Deadpool #2. And this book continues to amaze me because I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan in the comics, but I really like the first issue and I really like this issue too. So in this one, Deadpool starts his own business where he's essentially a merc slash bodyguard for hire. He even has an app where people can submit jobs to him. He brings Taskmaster on board to help him with this business venture, I guess. And they get their first job pretty quickly, and it is being a bodyguard for this fledgling influencer at Streaming Con. And they just have to go and protect this kid basically. And I say fledgling influencer because he doesn't get a whole lot of people come up to his table, and Deadpool and Taskmaster just kind of sitting there not really doing a whole lot until the con gets attacked by a character that we haven't seen in a while. And I am excited to see that character fight Deadpool and Taskmaster in the next issue. I think that'll be really, really cool. And then while all of that's going on, there's a subplot in the book about Deadpool's daughter Ellie. She makes a surprise discovery about herself, and she is determined to track down her dad to sort of sort some things out. I guess we'll say that. But yeah, the first issue is great. I really like this one too. The artwork is really fantastic. There's some good action in this. Not too much Deadpool, mouthy humor, like just the right amount. So I really enjoyed it. So I recommend it if you're looking for a new Deadpool book to read, especially with Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie coming out in the next couple months. So there's our A cover right there. We got a few variants for this one. There's the Mark Brooks, the corner box variant where Deadpool makes his own headshot in a corner box, basically. This is the Garon variant, the black suit variant. This, you can't have a Deadpool book without a Liefeld cover, so there's Rob Liefeld's rendition of his own character. We have the Saturday morning cartoon variant. And then this is the 1 in 10 Coelho variant we're selling for $8.99. That's the design variant for Death Grip. And then this is the 1 in 25 Shalvey variant that we're selling for $18.99.
Very cool. And a really exciting one up next. We've got
Oh yeah.
Geiger number 2. So it's no secret here that we are a big fan of all of the new Ghost Machine books, and this is a great continuation of Geiger's ongoing series. So I didn't even take a whole lot of notes for this because I read it and it was such a like concise
Yeah.
story that I'm like I don't really need notes. So Geiger is still kind of on his quest for the kind of rumors that there is someone who is cured of the same thing that plagues him, the same kind of he can't control the energy inside of him. So he is traveling with the Atomic Knight that he's with, which is very funny because that guy is super talkative and
Yeah.
Geiger doesn't really want to put up with it
Right.
too much. But they wandered to a town that might have news about this cure and this person that supposedly lived here for a little while. So they go up to, I guess, the mayor or
The sheriff, I
the
think. Yeah.
sheriff of the town, and he says, "I'll give you information about this guy. He actually lived here, but not for long, and he moved on. But we can tell you where he went and everything if you'll help us with a problem. There's been this bandit that's been terrorizing our town. It sounds like pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Um, if you'll help us deal with him, I'll give you the information. And also, a lot of people aren't a big fan of
Right.
your Atomic Knight friend over here. So if you don't go with this plan, they'll probably just like tear him up when he goes
Hmm.
outside. So they agree to this plan and kind of set up a perch on top of a roof and wait for this guy to show up. I don't want to give away what happens. Of course, there's twists and turns. I thought character design was really cool of this bandit guy
Yep.
who wears this mask but also has like a little mustache on
Yeah.
it and stuff. It's a very interesting design, but I really like the format of this as well, where it's definitely a one and done story as long as you know who your protagonists are.
Hmm.
But it's that kind of like roll into a town, it's got an issue. We got to solve the issue before we can go to the next town type thing.
I made the note that it gave me vibes of the '70s Hulk TV show
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a loner wandering into town, sort of gets involved with the affairs of the
Mm-hmm.
town, and then deals with that stuff, and then wanders off
Yeah.
onto the next town.
Yeah, it's simple, but in the best way
Yes,
of
it's very good.
you feel
Yeah.
like, man, that was a full story. I can't wait to see what next adventure he goes on. What's the next thing he encounters? And it gives you a tease of the next one, and it sounds super cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just loving Geiger. I'm loving all of these books. So don't sleep on them. We're still at issue number 2. You can probably still get at issue number 1, some printing of it, and get on board because this
Well, doesn't
universe.
the second print of #1 come out this week
I
too?
believe so.
I thought we had some. So yeah, if you missed the first one, you can get #1 and #2 this week.
Yeah, and get on board because for a new indie kind of pseudo superhero universe, you can't get any better
Hmm.
than the Ghost Machine books. So we've got our A cover right here, kind of his wanted poster, and we've got some really cool variants as well. So we've got this Ivan Rice variant, very cool with his dog Barney. But to up the coolness factor, we have
Yeah.
a 1 in 50 Ivan Rice variant for $39.99 that the background is kind of spot foil. Just
Is it also
super
kind of
cool.
like sparkly too? It's not
Yeah,
just flat foil. Is it? It's looks like I thought it had some sparkles
it's
or
got
some
it's got a lot
glitter.
going on to
Yeah,
it.
it
So
looks great.
just a really cool cover there.
Yeah. Well, let's jump back to some of the Blood Hunt books. We're going to talk about Strange Academy Blood. Oh, not that one though. This is that's the wrong book. Strange Academy Blood Hunt #1. I believe this is going to be a 3 or maybe a 4 issue miniseries in the Blood Hunt event. Now, the way this book is structured is it is split up into 3 different stories. And what's weird is, and we're going to talk about the other. The first story is called "The City That Never Weeps," which is also the title of the first story in Blood Hunters #1. Did you notice
I
that?
did notice that. That is
So I think maybe there was a little bit of a mistake there because the first story in this book and this book, they're both called "The City That Never Weeps," and I have no idea why that is, but whatever, it doesn't really matter.
and
Now,
that the 2 second stories take place before the first story.
Right, yeah. So
another weird thing.
Yeah, weird thing. So the all three of the stories in here are written by Daniel Jose Older, who is your writer buddy on Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, right? So that's pretty cool. The first one is, I think, it's the first appearance of a new Strange Academy student named Pia. I could not find any other information about her.
You kind of start it and like she just seems like part of the gang. But then, given how the backup story happens, you feel like, oh, is that how she joined the group? It's a weird way it's structured.
So I think it's her first appearance. I Googled her. I tried to look at all kinds of stuff. Could not find any more information about her. But the students are on a cemetery tour in New Orleans when the skies go dark and the vampires come out. So that's when, the, what's it called? Sun death.
Sun death.
Yeah. So that's when that happens.
They're on a vampire tour.
Right.
Which is like, what are the odds?
Yeah. So they are able to fend off the vampires, and they're able to make it back to the academy. And they overhear Dr. Voodoo talking to somebody. I have it written down here, but I don't want to... Dr. Voodoo is talking to somebody about how they need the Darkhold. Remember we talked about the Darkhold when we talked about Doctor Strange? They talk about how they need the Darkhold to deal with the vampire threat, and that the Darkhold might be in Madripoor. So then the kids take it upon themselves to go get the Darkhold themselves. And that's what I feel like the main story is going to be, is like them on this quest to get the Darkhold to show the adults, hey, we can do this. But what they find isn't what they were expecting to find. We'll say that for sure. There is a second story called How to Save a Life, but I don't really want to say anything about that story because it will spoil something from the first story. So we'll just leave it at that. And then there's another one called A Tiger by the Tail, and it's a little bit of an introductory story of this new character, Pia. So it's a little bit unclear how important this is going to be to the overall Blood Hunt story. I feel like this one might be a little bit more, I don't want to say necessary, but might have a little bit more, it might inject a little bit more into the main story. Because,
especially with the Darkhold, where, we heard in multiple books them mention the Darkhold, but this issue puts a spin on that.
That's right.
That will have to be addressed in the other ones.
For sure, yeah. So because of it's been made clear in a couple books that the Darkhold is necessary, and this book deals with the obtaining of the Darkhold in some way, shape, or form. So I feel like if you can swing another Blood Hunt book, maybe check this one out. Plus, the Strange Academy kids are really fun. So we have this A cover right here. There's a couple of variants. This is the Dolly variant, and I'm not going to tell you who that is, but you might be able to figure it out. Wait, does it? Okay. And then there is the Blood Red sketch variant as well.
So possibly in this, without giving it away, possibly 2 first appearances. Yeah, maybe. But that we'll all have to shake out later to find out if that's true or not.
Yeah, I hate to sound so vague about some of this stuff, but A, don't want to spoil anything, and B, it's still unclear where all this is going, right? So we don't quite know yet.
Yeah, and our biggest thing on here is we're not a show about, like, grab this one because it's the first appearance and it's going up in value. We want to make sure everyone has the best reading experience.
That's right.
And I feel like what you can take from some of these Blood Hunt books is read Blood Hunt #1. If you're reading everything, read Doctor Strange, and then you can read Strange Academy. And I feel like it will flow better in that order.
Yeah, and again, if you get them all, read Doctor Strange before this, or that, or any of them. Read Doctor Strange. If you get any Blood Hunt books this week, read Doctor Strange first.
Yes. Okay, speaking of Blood Hunt, because, man, there's a lot. We've got Blood Hunters #1. Now, this is a really cool one because it's kind of your... They've done this with a lot of events. It's your kind of... What is everybody else doing during this event? Kind of your characters that maybe don't play the biggest part in the story, but they might be your favorite character, and you want to see how they're dealing with this vampire outbreak. So, this is an anthology book. We've got 3 stories in here. Now, the third one in it is actually going to be continued through all of them, so I'll get to that in a second. But the 3 stories, we've got... Oh, yeah, I have it written down. The City That Never... I put sleeps.
It's weeps.
It's weeps. Yeah. Okay. By Mark Russell and Bob Quinn. And they got some really good names on these stories in here. Some big names. This first story follows Hawkeye, who, like you told me earlier, kind of spins out of the Hawkeye Black Widow miniseries where he's kind of been accused of something. Maybe
Yeah.
the authorities are after him,
Yeah.
and he's trying to lay low.
Yeah, it's not a huge connection to that, but it does make slight reference to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll just say he's got a very goofy mustache.
Yeah.
That is pretty
It's
bad.
like, hey, Johnny Storm called and wants his
I know,
mustache
that's what
back.
I got the feelings of. But he is about to get arrested, and that's when the vampires attack. And he actually does a really cool job of kind of rallying the city around
Mhm.
and orchestrating how best to take care of the vampires using just regular people who live in the city. There's a great part with a priest.
Yeah.
That's really, really fun.
It gave me very slight vibes of Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run,
Yeah.
where he befriended a lot of the people in the building that he owned. And this was kind of sort of like that, Hawkeye befriending normal everyday people.
Yeah, and I feel like he's really strong in that sense
Yeah.
of like, because he doesn't have any like superpowers, and he can relate to the everyman, and kind of he's good at planning and all that. So that's a really fun story. We have one called Blood Relations by Christos Gage and Javier Guerin. And this one is Blood Relations, J. Jonah Jameson and his son, Manwolf, or his son that can transform into Manwolf, when all the vampires stuff goes down. It's funny how this is a story about like they're fighting vampires, but also like a father-son bonding issue where initially Jameson wants to call Spider-Man to get him to come in there and help, but maybe his son is all the help he needs.
Right.
It's just a really fun, pretty actiony story. And then our third one is Once More Into the Darkness, and this is going to be your ongoing one within this title by Erica Schultz and Bernard Chang. This one focuses on Dagger of Cloak and Dagger, and since we know what happens in Blood Hunt #1, we know that Cloak is definitely out of commission right now.
He's seen better days.
He's seen better days. He may be a horrible portal to another realm. So Dagger's kind of on her own and kind of trying to figure out what to do. It kind of is about like this barista that they were friends with, and they've been turned into a vampire, and her dealing with like it seems like her powers are very strong against vampires because she's got these light powers and everything, but her dealing with her powers, being by herself, not having Cloak there, and it looks like she's gonna be getting a new partner in this to help everything go through. Which was fun. You'll have to read it to see who it is, but a character that's very fitting in the Blood Hunt event.
And did you mention the structure? The first two stories are one and dones.
Yeah, the first two are one and dones, and the third is an ongoing for this miniseries. So I think that's a fun idea.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I know we got a future one that has like Hulk in it.
The next one.
Yeah, the next issue has Hulk in it. There's a lot of characters that maybe don't play the biggest part in Blood Hunt, but they're still around and you want to see what they're up to, and that's going to be really cool. So we've got our A cover right there. We've also got our Declan Shalvey. These are called like the book variants or book cover variants. Yeah. And then, like all of them, we have a blood red sketch variant.
All right, so next is a new book called Crocodile Black #1. It's called Crocodile Black, and it's issue #1. But it's a new book from Boom, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson. The art is by Somnath Paul, and it's about a young man named Danny, and he kind of has this obsessive disorder where he he sees something or hears something, and he just gets lost in escapism about that thing. Which I know doesn't sound like it makes sense, but it makes sense in the book. And he's having to sort of try to manage that. His family limits his. I mean, he's late. He's probably like 18, 19, maybe early 20s. So he's not a kid, but his family still kind of limits his screen time and that kind of thing because they have to manage this disorder that he has. And he works as a food delivery person. Delivers, food and groceries, that kind of thing. Well, one day he delivers groceries to this house, and he finds the body of a man wearing these black crocodile skin boots. And because of this disorder he has, he cannot take his eyes off of these boots. He cannot he just can't let it go, basically. And then the time jumps ahead a month, and the police arrive at another place. It's at the scene of a triple homicide. And let's just say that they find some very distinct footprints of somebody who may have some very particular kind of boot. And what happened, and who did it? I mean, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but why did they do it? That kind of thing. That is part of the mystery. That's what we'll have to wait and see. But really interesting. It did take me a few minutes to sort of get my brain around the story because the time does jump back and forth just a little bit. But so I'd go back and say, is that? And then I'd look back. But once it all clicks together, it's very, very interesting, and I want to see what happens next. So highly recommend it. If you're, it's not anything like supernatural or anything, but just like a good kind of a crime story. Kind of reminds me of maybe like a Brubaker and Phillips, something they might kind of do. But Philip Kennedy Johnson of he's writing Hulk right now. Had a great run on Superman, and now he is doing this more down to earth crime book, and I really liked it. So there is Crocodile Black #1, the A cover, and then we have there's no open order variants for this, but we do have a 1 in 10 Sorrentino variant that we're selling for $9.99. It's kind of the same as the A cover,
but highlight the boots.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, next up for me is a really cool one. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black, White, and Green #1. Man, we're going to be seeing a lot of new Ninja Turtles coming up soon. I feel like, we are just at the precipice with the Free Comic Book Day and this and all the stuff that's to come. So, like all companies that we've seen do these kind of style books, this is an anthology style, and they use the color palette of black, white, and green in this one, where some do black, white, and red, and that kind of thing. This has 3 stories in it, or I guess 4 stories. One of them's a little bit shorter. But we have our first story by Declan Shalvey, and he does the writing and art on it about Donatello, where he learns he can't solve every problem from behind a computer. And that one's really fun. I like seeing Declan Shalvey's style on Ninja Turtles. I think that's kind of what makes this really good. Is we had a 150 issue run of a phenomenal Ninja Turtle series, but it was all like one big story. It's fun to see very different takes on the Turtles, and style wise and attitude and all that. Our second story is by Jesse Lonergan and Dave Baker, and it's about a warrior in the distant past named Leonardo. And this one gave me definitely like the world that this turtle's in is very like Usagi, like all the other characters are animals.
Oh, nice.
And kind of thing. But what's the relation to this Leonardo and the present day Leonardo? Are they the same person? And it does have to do with portals. You'll have to read and find out. But that was really fun. We have one by Gigi Duray and Lorenzo Hall. Story about Raphael, kind of his problem being a team player and getting along with everybody. And then lastly, we have a story by Gana Chow, who tells a story where I really like this one, a strange liquid that Donatello was working on, think flubber, watches the characters train and then thinks it can become a turtle.
Okay.
And so there's a giant goo turtle that really fun, great with the colors where you got this solid green turtle. Really, really cool one there. But just a fun mix of a bunch of different turtle stories.
I love the thought of a giant goo turtle.
Oh, yeah.
I can't get that out of my head.
You'll have to look at it and see, because that's exactly what it is. Like a big old Jello mold turtle. But really, really fun, and I'm just excited to read more turtles in all different styles they come in.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of variants for this. We've got our A cover right there. I really like this one. This is our Stoko variant. It almost looks like a one of the original with the single color palette covers. And we have this Berger cover with Splinter.
And some green hands.
Declan Shalvey draws Splinter like a really fuzzy rat, and it's really fun.
Okay,
I like that one.
All right, well, we cannot not talk about Transformers #8, one of the best books on the stands right now. In this one, the Autobots have kind of regrouped. They've gone back to the Ark. They're continuing to work on rebuilding themselves. They're still, fussing around with Teletran 1, who's been merged with Skywarp, I think, and dealing with all that. Carly is still having a difficult time dealing with everything that's happened, right? She's kind of still mad at Cliff Jumper because he didn't stop Starscream. and because he didn't stop Starscream, a whole bunch of other people died. That kind of thing. It's the why doesn't Batman kill the Joker kind of thing. She's just having a hard time processing all of this, but she does form a special bond with RC that it kind of helps her get through some of this stuff, and it'll be interesting to see that develop. I'm really interested in that. So while they're dealing with that, the Decepticons establish a new base, and they free another one of their own. So they gain another ally basically. And we also see the return of another Autobot who we have seen before, but we haven't seen them in a while. So it was really cool to see them back and what they're going to go off and do next. So not the biggest slam bang action pack issue of Transformers, but they can't all be, right. They have to. I mean, they've been both the Autobots and Decepticons have been put through the ringer, and they have to have a little bit of an opportunity to regroup and gather up their forces again for another battle that's sure to come soon.
Character building.
Yeah, for sure. So, but still a fantastic issue. Jorge Corona's art is still wonderful. Just another rock solid issue of Transformers. So there's our A cover right there. We have some variants. This is the Corona and Spicer variant. And then we have this 1 in 10 Darbo variant that we're selling for $8.99. And then we have a 1 in 25 Young variant that we're selling for $15.99. And then there is a 1 in 50 as a set of variant that we're selling for $44.99. And then we also wanted to tell you about the Energon Universe 2024 special. Now, I remember when we talked about this on Comics from the Future, it sounded a lot like the Energon Universe Free Comic Book Day book, and we were both like, what is this? Why are they doing this? That kind of thing. Well, we can now tell you for certain that if you picked up the Energon Universe Free Comic Book Day book, you do not need to buy this because there is nothing new on the inside. But having read how crazy that Energon Universe Free Comic Book Day book was, I get now why they're doing this, because if there's anybody out there who was unable to get to a shop on Free Comic Book Day, if you love the Energon books, but for some reason you weren't able to get that Free Comic Book Day book, you definitely still want to get this, though, because there are some big things in it. And I understand now why they're putting a for sale version out there, because they want to make sure that everybody can get this book in some way, shape, or form. But again, if you got the Free Comic Book Day book, you do not need to buy this. There's nothing new in it unless you want the covers. And it's, obviously, we're a retailer. We want people to buy as many books as possible, but we also want to give you just good, accurate information. And just to let you know, there's nothing different in this from the free book that was out on Saturday. But there is the A cover for that right there by Daniel Warren Johnson. And there's some cool variants too. So this is by Dave Felici with some of your characters from Void Rivals. There is a 1 in 10 Riley variant that we're selling for $8.99. And there is a I hate to show this because I don't want to. It's fine. It's a 1 in 25 green variant that we're selling for $19.99 with some G.I. Joe characters on there. So again, if you have the Free Comic Book Day book, get this if you want the extra covers. But if not, then you're already set.
Another thing I heard was I saw somebody post somewhere that it's really hard for outside the United States for stores to get the Free Comic Book Day books.
Okay.
But this might be a way where they can order this book, whereas they maybe couldn't order the Free Comic Book Day version of the book. So it may be also for international audiences, because they said it can be expensive to order the Free Comic Book Day one. So I think this is, like you said, it's just a way that makes sure everyone who wants to read it can get it, and they should read it.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling people as I was passing out books on Saturday. I would ask them, "Are you reading the Energon Universe books?" And they say, "Oh yeah, I read." And then I'd tell them, "Then you need this book because it's a big deal. There's 3 different stories. There's a Transformers, a Void Rivals, and a G.I. Joe story,
and they're all big.
They are all big. They're all important. And if you do have to buy this, it's only $3.99, so it's not like they're jacking up the price. But if you are an Energon Universe fan, you do want this book. I promise you."
Yep. Okay, next up for me, I've got Darth Vader, Star Wars Darth Vader number 46. I really like this issue. I wasn't sure about the story arc they were getting into, the kind of the schism, Imperial, this kind of sect of the Empire that doesn't agree with the Emperor and they want to take him down. Vader's kind of joined that. They've got some like ex-rebels that have like robot augmentations. It's just very different, but this kind of really pulls it together as they decide to take the fight to Exegol, which is Palpatine's, we saw it in Rise of Skywalker. It's his kind of like secret laboratory base where that's where he's going to have his eternal body and everything like that. So Vader pulls his team together to go and attack there. We see the Sith Eternal, which is the group that kind of worships Palpatine there, but it's also like his hands until he can kind of reform. And we haven't really seen them in too much. And to get like a good picture of what these kind of Palpatine cultists look like is really, really cool. But Vader's plan in this is so big that's like, I know Vader survives it, but it's interesting to see, does he even think that he can survive it? He's about to do something that's like, is it worth even taking out his own life to destroy Palpatine? So it's a really interesting issue, full of kind of twists and turns and everything that I really, really enjoyed. We've got some variants for it as well. So we have the Phantom Menace 25th Anniversary Sprouse variant. I just went to see Phantom Menace in theaters last
I missed
night.
it. I hate that I missed it. Yeah.
It was really fun with the extra sneak peek of the Acolyte at the end, which is awesome.
Interesting.
So much like Kung Fu Star Wars in
Nice.
that's awesome. So that is our variant for that one. And we have this really nice Riley variant. It's very stark.
All right, well, I want to tell you about another Blood Hunt tie-in. This is Avengers number 14, and this was great. I was going to tell you, this was great. So this one, the main Avengers, we saw what they went through in Blood Hunt number 1, but there needs to be another team of Avengers on the ground, dealing with all the street level stuff. So Captain America Steve Rogers pulls together Hercules, Quicksilver, Kate Bishop, and Hazmat to deal with the ground level threat, the vampires on the ground. And I will tell you, this issue is full of action, wall to wall, nonstop. Almost every page is just nothing but this lineup of Avengers versus vampires. The artwork and the colors are fantastic. They actually run into a group of Nazi vampires, which seems like that's going to be the group that this lineup focuses on over the course of the next 3 issues.
Mary's got some punching to do.
Well, yeah, and I feel like this isn't going to inject anything into the main Blood Hunt story. But honestly, if you can swing it, I would recommend getting this just because it was so good. And we see who is leading these Nazi vampires. I won't tell you who it is, but it is somebody from Captain America's past. And no, not who you're thinking of. It's somebody different. It's great. I just had a ball. I had a blast reading this, and Hercules and Hazmat are my new favorite duo, like tag team duo. Your Beast and your Wonder Man, or your Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, and they don't even really know each other, but they hit it off really fast, and they're great together. This was wonderful. I love this book. So even though it won't inject, I don't think it'll inject much into the main story. If you just want a really good, fun tie into Blood Hunt, this is it right here. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So there's our A cover right there. We have a couple cool variants. Here's one with Kate Bishop by Chris Bocciolo, and then there is the In-Hyuk Lee, the black suit variant with Vision, who is not in this book. I will tell you that much. I love this, though.
I love anything with Hercules in it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
he was great in this. This was so wonderful. It was fantastic.
Can't wait to read that one.
Yeah.
And continuing with Blood Hunt, I have Amazing Spider-Man number 49, which is part of the main Amazing Spider-Man run, but is the Blood Hunt tie-in before we get to the, I believe, 3-issue Spider-Man Blood Hunt miniseries.
Right, which they had to do because the next issue is number 50, and they have their own story they want to tell, so they had to spin off this Spider-Man's Blood Hunt tie-in into
its own miniseries. Yeah. But this kind of kicks that off. So in this, Spider-Man is fighting vampires. It kind of takes place right when this happened. He's loving it because he thinks, oh, these are just vampires. And, he doesn't feel too guilty about fighting vampires. That might change later on in it. But he does get a text of somebody texting Peter Parker because they know he knows Spider-Man and saying, hey, we need you at blank location right now. We've got a big deal. he arrives there to find out that it's a former or current criminal who one of his partners he works with has been turned into a vampire, and he wants Spider-Man's help to unturn them into a vampire, which brings in a lot of like the vampire lore, which could play out in the overall Blood Hunt event of just like how can you turn a vampire back into a human. That might play out in this, but it's a weird lead into, I guess, whatever, because they were saying, oh, you're definitely going to know what Spider-Man's place is in the Blood Hunt universe once you read this. It does leave in a weird place where another character shows up, another Spider-Man related character, but I don't quite know why. They kind of just pop out of nowhere. They just show up out of nowhere, in a back alley. So I'm not sure. It's a fun, like, short little story using some of the Spider-Man characters and all that. We'll have to read the follow-up miniseries to really know what was all of this about. But yeah, if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, you get a fun little one-shot Blood Hunt story. And then our next issue is the big issue 50, which I guess is back out of Blood Hunt by that point. So, really interesting one there. Very different. We've got some variants for it. We've got, of course, the now super popular Disney variants. These start off just a couple of people ordering them. Now we've got tons of people ordering
Not an X-Men book.
Not an X-Men book. We also have this one. This is the Lucas Wernick Stormbreakers variant, which this is not a Black Cat nor Ghost Rider book.
Right. But, nor is it a Black Cat Ghost Rider book.
Nope, neither one of those. But this is awesome. This is the 1/25 Chris Samney variant. We're selling for $14.99. And that makes me, like you said earlier, I want to see Chris Samney on a Spider-Man book. And like a Spider-Man Year One or something. Like a really classic Spider-Man. I really like that one.
Well, speaking of Spider-Man Year One, kind of, sort of, we have Spider-Man, the Shadow of the Green Goblin, #2, and this does remind me of, it reminds me of the Untold Tales of Spider-Man book from back in 1995, in the way that it tells a story of Spider-Man's extremely early days. We're talking just weeks after Uncle Ben died. But it weaves in a new story that kind of fits in between the books that we actually got back in the 60s. So in this one, the Proto-Goblin, who is the is it Nels Van Adder, who took the Green Goblin formula before Norman Osborn took it. It wasn't quite perfected yet, and now he's this big, like, red, monstrous, goblin-looking creature. He goes after Harry Osborn at the orders of somebody. I don't want to spoil it, just in case you haven't read the first one yet. But he does it because the person who tells him to go get Harry, they say, if you do that, I can cure your condition. So that's why he goes and does it. While that's going on, Spider-Man fights the Sandman in one of their earliest battles after the Sandman robs a bank, but it has a surprising result, something I didn't quite see coming. And it's interesting because there's two stories. There's Spider-Man and Sandman, and then there's the Proto-Goblin and Harry, and they don't join. Like, so Spider-Man isn't fighting the Proto-Goblin or anything. It's two completely separate things. I'm sure they'll reconverge at some point. But yeah, just another cool story of Spider-Man in his extremely early days. So if you read Untold Tales of Spider-Man back in 1995, then this is a lot like that. You may want to try this out. That's our A cover right there. And we have this really cool Dan Panosian black suit variant with Green Goblin.
And next up for me, I've got Giant Size X-Men. No, not that one. This is Giant Size X-Men #1, because they're doing a bunch of new Giant Size books. This is by Ann Nocenti and ours by Lee Ferguson. And this one's really weird. So it is about Angel. Angel is kind of the main character in this. And when it begins, it's very weird. Angel's in a club full of angels, but like the other angels have kind of like weaker looking wings. But then Psylocke walks up and she has wings.
Do you mean other angels, like angels from heaven, or other, like, multiverse angels?
No, like
other versions.
Angels or mutants that have wings. Something like that. One even mentions, it's so annoying when like someone hires you to come to like somebody's bedside while they're dying and give them hope and stuff like that. But what is this? Because suddenly the different X-Men start showing up and like really like ragging on Angel for different reasons and calling him out on stuff and talking about do you even know what your kill count is? How many people you've killed
Do you
and
even
stuff?
kill, bro?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very weird, but there is someone behind this that maybe it's not all what it seems. So it's a very surreal tale that does have a explanation, but it's still kind of a deep dive into Angel and his psyche and why he does what he does and his thought process, all of that in a very interesting way. So yeah, it's giant size X Men. There are other X Men in it, but mostly this is should be giant size Angel. Uh, and you do get other versions of Angel in it as well, like you see on the cover.
Interesting.
So this is your A cover, and I love this variant. This is Javier Garren variant, which is essentially giant size X Men #1, but a side angle, which I think is
Oh yeah.
super cool.
That's right.
So
Well, next is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue number 6, the final issue of this amazingly awesome series. Can't tell you too much though, because obviously that would spoil the whole thing since it's the end. But I would tell you that the real Woodbrook killer, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, they start planning their next kill. But Sam here, who is an actual serial killer, who was the one that was getting framed for all the kills in Woodbrook. She was on the run, but she's like, I've got to see this through. I've got to finish this. She heads back to Woodbrook, and she's gonna face the real killer once and for all. And that's kind of all I can tell you without spoiling everything. So, but if you've been reading this, you know how awesome this is. So, really just wanted to tell you that the last issue is out this week. Don't miss it. So, there's our A cover right there. And we have, just as we've had with all the other issues, this Riley Rossmo variant. And then there is a 1 in 25 black and white version of that we're selling for $24.99.
and they got to do another volume of this. It's
I really hope
so
so.
popular.
It's so good.
And lastly, for me, I've got just want to talk about Birds of Prey #9. This is such a fun series, and this one, uh, in the previous one, there was a portal that opened up, and something grabbed Barbara Gordon through it, and the rest of the Birds of Prey went through this portal. We didn't know where they went. Well, in this, we find out that they are in a very gray, almost like Tim Burton feeling universe, not art style, but like tone. And when they jumped through, they all had on like they were in like a bikini contest in the previous one. Now they're all wearing very like gothic versions of their outfits, which is really interesting, even to see. And they kind of discuss that, and they were Bart is like, "What happened?" And they're like, "Well, you were wearing like a curtain." And now you're wearing this. She's like, oh yeah, I like the material that curtain was made out of. It's really funny, but in this world, even though they're looking for Barbara Gordon, all of that, can they trust anyone that they run into, or is it something else? Very weird issue, and it looks like maybe for the next couple of issues they're going to be universe hopping or kind of parallel world hopping in a really interesting way. But I always love when they go into a world and then their like suits change to kind of match it and to see what all that looks like. But very interesting entry in Birds of Prey. We've got some variants for this as well. We've got the Edgeoccur variant. We've got, I really like this one. This is the Philip Tan variant with a really
Oh
cool
yeah.
Evander Kane
That's
on
great.
there. We have this Christian Ward variant with Barbara kind of falling through a portal. And lastly, we have this NG variant. This is a 1 in 25 for $29.99.
Well, real quick, I just want to tell you about Batman number 147. This is part 3 of the Dark Prison story arc, and it was really good. Bruce is, or he's kind of on the run. Failsafe is acting as Batman in Gotham right now. So Bruce seeks refuge in an old family cabin while he sort of plans his next move, and he's trying to outthink Failsafe, who thinks just the way he does. So he's essentially trying to outthink himself. Meanwhile, Failsafe confronts Vandal Savage, who is the new police commissioner of Gotham, and Failsafe also confronts Amanda Waller, and there's something in this that is, I think, going to be a big connection to Absolute Power. So we can, between this and Superman, the Superman books with the House of Brainiac stuff, we can see House of Absolute Power it's starting to slowly form.
Yeah.
There are some things in this that we will see in Absolute Power, so it's starting to really build up into that. So just wanted to make you aware. But I really like this one a lot. I mean, I don't know how he's going to get out of it, right? I mean, this is really good. So there's our A cover right there. And here is, this is another Jorge Jimenez cover with Punchline. Punchline's not in the book. Neither is Joker.
Because they're right there.
Yeah, they're right there. This is a 125 Kunkka variant that we're selling for $12.99. And then we have a 1 in 50 Subic variant that we're selling for $24.99. Do you have any others?
Oh, that's it for me.
Just real quick, just want to tell you about Venom number 33 because it does say that it's a Blood Hunt tie-in. I will tell you that this barely ties into Blood Hunt at all. I'm not keeping up with Venom, so I didn't really understand what was going on. It's a lot. It's a lot of references to a lot of the things that both Venom and Carnage have gone through lately. There's a few mentions of the skies going dark and vampires being out there, but it doesn't really tie in that much. So if you're not reading Venom, you're not really going to miss anything if you skip this. But if you are reading Venom, then the new issue comes out this week. That's it.
That is it. We got a lot of really good books this week, so hopefully you found some that you learned a little bit about them, and now you want to go and pick them up. Especially which Blood Hunt books to pick up. I feel like that's a big thing this week. Is kind of navigating, like with any big event, what parts do you want to read? What parts do you feel okay skipping so you get the story you want to read out of it? But head over to infinityflux.net right now and order the books that you want while supplies last. That's super important. Again, thank you for everyone who came out for Free Comic Book Day. It was a blast.
It was so much fun.
Here signing and doing all that, and I was busy from the moment I sat down till I'm still tired from it. So it feels like it still hasn't ended.
I was passing out the books, including Young Jedi Adventures, and so I would pass out the books and then send them over to Andy, and he would sign and remark. It was great.
Yeah, it was a great factory we had going. Let's keep it up. But stay tuned for our show coming up on Wednesday, where we'll be going over all the books that you can pre-order by the weekend, so you don't miss out on any of those good stuff. And I think that is it.
If you made it all the way, we've done enough blood, but we both love Ain't No Grave. Yeah. So isn't there like a grave emoji
there's
or something?
Grave,
or a tombstone or something?
And I think there's maybe a smiley face with a cowboy hat.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. Drop those emojis to let us know that you made it all the way to the end with us.
Absolutely. Leave us a comment. Like always, we love checking those, responding. We love to talk to you.
And thank you for, I don't know if we mentioned this in the last one, thank you for helping us hit 3,000 subscribers.
We hit 3,000.
And we're pretty well past that now, too. So thank you guys so much. It means the world to us. It's wonderful.
Yes. And until next time, see ya.